Hello. Let me check and make sure all my stuff is working, because this is literally the first time I've ever streamed anything. Okay. Alright, so just with any other Twitch stream ever, I'm sure this will start out really sad. Yeah, so as long as it is pretty quiet in here, no viewers, that kind of stuff, then I'm just gonna kind of let it go and record for the VOD in case anybody wants to come back, or in case, particularly if I want to come back and see what I've done or show somebody or that kind of stuff. But for the most part, this will be a really casual stream, especially at first while I get the hang of things. So expect a lot of dead air, especially if there's never anyone here for me to talk to. I'm not gonna ramble on and on. But yeah, so my goals here, basically just to kind of push production along. I've been really enjoying the feedback and the back and forth that I've been getting from my working thread. So I have a working thread on Polycount, where I kind of post updates and stuff, and so I thought I'd try out the streaming thing. I know it works for a lot of artists, and particularly a lot of big artists, but I'm kind of a nobody, obviously. But I've also, in the past, been interested in kind of cataloging some of my process, recording it, talking about it, that kind of stuff, just for my own notes. So why not do that live where people can come watch if they want? So that's kind of my goals here. But yeah, for the most part, it'll just be me, literally just me, kind of working on stuff. I think for the streams, so OWHQ, for people who don't know, is a large-scale environment, video game environment project that I've been working on, based on the Overwatch art style, lore, story, all that kind of stuff. So I've been working on it for a while now, obviously, and oh hey, I actually have some people watching. Welcome. So I've been kind of rambling on my intro just for my own benefit, but so I'll just get back into it. So this is my first stream, which will be automatically very apparent. Never done anything like this before, so it'll be a little bit rough, and I'm also not going to go out of my way to fill a lot of the dead air, just because that's going to get really weird and awkward. But if anybody has any questions or have any topics they want to talk about, particularly about making art, video game art, the video game industry, working in the video game industry, that kind of stuff, then I would be happy to discuss that stuff. Yeah, just explaining the project a little bit. OWHQ is a long-term environment art project that I've been working on for more than several months now. We'll just leave it at that. And is there really anybody here? I feel like this program is lying to me. Oh no, there are. Hello. Sorry. Yeah. So basically, for the streams, I think so. This is a pretty large project. Hi, real person. Sorry, it's just yeah. Welcome. Um, so this is a pretty large project. There's a lot going on here. So I figured for the streams, I would kind of pick an area that has some more bespoke kind of self-contained props, and really kind of work on that area. So there's some, for example, there are some of these more prop-heavy kind of story lore-based areas here, where there's lots of these little individual objects and stuff, and so I think these are good candidates to do on the stream rather than me, me showing you this wall for a couple hours a couple times a week and just turning on that and be like, where should we put these panel lines and all that kind of stuff. A little less interesting than just going through and cooking on some of these self-contained props. So yeah, so this is the project. It's a kind of a section of the overall what I imagine to be the overall Overwatch headquarters in the Swiss Alps, and the timeline of my project, which I don't think I've discussed too much. Well, it's kind of obvious if you know the lore. Before the beginning of the game, this whole place blew up, so obviously this takes place long before the beginning of the game. Kind of right around when Overwatch is running into trouble. They're starting to get inspected by the government, the governments of the world, and all that kind of stuff. I'll try not to get too heavy into the lore, but I don't even know a lot of the lore. But I have tried to keep all of that in mind, since there's hooks to all that kind of stuff everywhere in the environments. It's a big influence on the environments. So done a lot of work here in the exterior, and then I've been moving out I've done a lot of work on the interior, and I've been moving out to the exterior lately. I've been doing a lot of this kind of stuff, so like placing grass cards and that kind of crap, which is also not super interesting for to do on a stream. I don't think anybody really wants to watch me place 300 grass cards on a stream and then call it a night. So yeah, so I've been doing a lot of this work kind of when I can, but there's this area over here, and so there's kind of two main story hook areas in the exterior. And if there's anything in here that you don't understand, if I'm using weird terminology, like, I'm kind of going off of people having read my thread on Polycount and kind of know how my thought process has been up to this point. So if there's anything that's not understandable, please throw it in chat. I got the chat over here, and I will clarify. So there's kind of two main story-based areas on the exterior. There's this corner here, and then obviously this platform here, which will have the statue of Soldier 76, the Commander Morrison statue there. So if this were an actual map, then this would kind of be the capture point, right over here, and that. So there's a big point of interest statue kind of thing over there. But over here in this corner, you can see some of these placeholder objects here. So I have this desk that I brought out from the office, and then these are actually, this is my drinking fountain that I've sized up, just to kind of get a feel for these objects in the space. If I switch over to not that, if I switch over to my concept drawing of this space, you kind of get an idea for the vision that I have for the exterior terrace. So over here in the corner is kind of this work area. So looking for places to tie in the characters, especially. So we know all the different characters that have worked here. They were in Overwatch, and so I have some nameplates and offices designated to different characters, and I've actually built out Strike Commander Morrison's office that you can go in and look around in. Here I was imagining that
Torbjorn, who is kind of a engineer, tinkerer, builder, developer kind of guy. He's built himself an ad hoc workspace out here on this terrace, and so as you're running through fighting and stuff, there's this corner over here where he's moved a computer, a whole computer supercomputer server out there to power all of his tech, and he's got a workbench, and all kinds of stuff. And I've even gone so far as to imagine that he has out there, I don't know her real name, but he's got Mercy's wings, her flight pack, out like on a mannequin dummy, and he's doing repairs on it or something. So that having that iconic kind of Mercy's wings, and maybe it's like flickering on and off, or it's busted, or it's in process of being repaired, would be something really awesome to see in a level like this. And then one of these places where you can go over there, you can shoot a rocket in there and all the crap will go flying, all that kind of stuff. So I was thinking that I would, at least on stream, work on some of these objects. Now a lot of these objects are really boring. There's this little tool cart over here, not going to be super thrilling. Sorry. A lot of environment art is building like inane, boring stuff like pipes or trash cans or like those kinds of things. If things get really I don't know, we'll see. Obviously, there's more exciting things to build in this vignette, in this scenario, like Mercy's wings and all that kind of thing. So I'll just kind of see how it goes. See how the streaming thing goes. Like I said, this is the first time I've streamed anything, and it may go terribly. This may be the most viewers I ever have in my whole streaming career, which is cool. I'm very happy that there's 5 people here. That is way more than I expected to show up. So thank you. So that's kind of, you can see just kind of vague drawing. So I didn't render these things out super deeply. There's just kind of ideas of objects here. So I'm going to be doing a lot of that, kind of like getting into the weeds, figuring out what these objects actually are. I'm going to be doing a lot of that on stream, whatever that looks like. So I may be going out to Google to look up images. I may be starting up the game and running around the game and looking at stuff. You guys are just here for me doing my thing. Like, hopefully some more future, like as I get into it, I'll get that momentum and I'll start to get a more clear picture of the stuff that's in here, and it'll be 98% just working on the art. But especially in these early stages of planning out a space like this, it's going to be whatever tools I can grab that will help get me there. If I'm drawn on paper, hopefully I won't do much of that. I have a tablet here, a screen tablet. It's not a Wacom, it's not a Cintiq, but it does the job. So I can, sorry about that, so I can switch to that, and I'll scribble, all that kind of stuff. So let's dive in. So I have some of the stuff here, kind of stuff from other parts of the game that I've pulled in, but I'd like to throw some actual block out objects that aren't like drinking fountains and stuff. So I'm going to be working on some really loose models for that, and I'm not going to try to fill the space too much with me talking, just because I don't know that would be super interesting, but I'll try not to keep the dead air too much either. So, and again, if you have any questions or anything that you want clarified as I go along, or if you want to talk about just general topics, then that's cool too. And I will try to explain at least what I'm doing and what I'm thinking and all that kind of stuff. So here's my exterior file. So the interior is kind of in its own file. I can talk about that later, but I've pulled the exterior stuff into its own its own file, and it's a little hard to see these layers over here, but I have so the terrace is what I'm focusing on right now because that's the playable space. But as I've said before, in environment art, you have to make everything, right? So I have here on other layers, I have everything, except I used to have, oh, here it is, dirt. So, and by everything, I mean just kind of the surrounding terrain, kind of the mid-ground stuff. So the stuff I have selected here, that's the playable space, and then here's the rest of the facility kind of sticking out of the mountain, and then the mid-ground mountains and hills, and then past this drop-off is the sky dome, and that's a whole nother file, a whole nother project. This monster thing here is just I did some sculpting in ZBrush at one point, and I did the sculpting like this from this angle, and then kind of realized after I did all that you're never even gonna see that. Like, you'll always be seeing it at this angle, so it was kind of useless to plan something out from this angle and make it look all pretty from here. But so that's just in here as placeholder, and then all of this stuff I will eventually have to texture and dress and all that. But for now, I have my walls here. Thank you, Vinny, Vinny Elite. Sorry, I didn't respond to you. Thank you so much. It's been awesome having people see this. I've been working on this since last April, pretty much in a vacuum. There's been a couple friends that I run things by, but to starting that thread, and then the 80 level article was amazing, and having people get to see it, even though it's not finished, and respond just like that, means a lot to me, especially at this point in my work. So thank you. I'll get the hang of this streaming stuff as I go along. Right, so here's our space, and I have a better feel for, well, here, I'll just jump in. This should work, yeah. So I can get the feel for the scale as I run around here. So yeah, things tend to be kind of oversized in Overwatch, especially if you play certain characters like Genji or Torbjorn. Things are like really big. Like Genji is way smaller than you think he is. So I'm just gonna look at my margins here, my proportions, and see, so I can start blocking some stuff out in Maya. If the music is dumb or annoying, let me know. If you can even hear it, I have it turned way down, but it's just like the music that Twitch allows you to play. It's not great, but it fills the space. So it's like I can use this pipe here to see, and then the height kind of goes up to that plane change right there. Which is not present on that wall for some reason. So it's the only the inside portion of that wall is present. So I'm going to turn off that terrain just so I can stop selecting it there in the background. And so we'll kind of start with this. This looks pretty okay. I'll probably change it a little bit from this, but you know, having a computer console in one corner, and then like a workbench type space, and then storage and the computer stuff in the corner. Probably stick pretty close to that, at least initially. So let's turn my wireframes on. If I keep looking to the side, it's because I'm looking at the chat. Whoop, there it is. that might be a better place for it. Nope, not really. Okay. Here we go. All right. So, who are you guys? Are you guys professionals, hobbyists, wannabe professionals, wannabe hobbyists, students? As I drop, as 1/3 of my viewers drops away. I feel like I'm still a wannabe professional. Oh, that pipe isn't even in there in that scene. That's weird. Wait, you've been an environment artist on the PS4, PlayStation 4 for 3 years? That sounds like a legit professional. Not just a wannabe. Man, it's so hard to not feel like a wannabe though. Just anything you do, yeah, totally. And anything I do, like there's somebody who's, I feel like there's somebody who is younger and can do it better. Like what's his name? That guy who's been doing Overwatch levels. The Filipino guy. I follow him on ArtStation. I should find out. Oh, I should check and see. Oh yeah, there I am. I'm on ArtStation. Cool. My stream. I set up all the streaming stuff literally like an hour ago. I figured I'd just dive right in. But yeah, that what's it, Laurenti guy. So I started doing this project. You know, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna do this big environment or whatever, and learn all this stuff. It'll be this big journey. It'll be great. Everyone will love me. And then a few months in, that kid from the film. I wish I should look up his name. The kid from the Philippines drops like a whole Overwatch level and gets on. Like Kotaku does a story on. I was just like, no. I mean, not that doing an Overwatch level is like some unique idea that no one would ever have except me. Like, it's pretty. I don't know. I was just looking around though, and most people were doing characters. So I was like, I should do a level. Yeah, but his stuff is awesome, and he's fast. He makes me feel like a wannabe. But yeah, that's just the way things go. Like, there'll always be somebody out there who does exactly what you want to do and does it, and they have more time to do it, and they do it better than you. You just gotta, you know, be happy for them and roll with it, you know. So what games have you worked on for the PS4? Or is it under wraps? Yeah. Yeah, I'm not old by any stretch, but Concrete Genie? I gotta Google that now. I used to be way more in touch with like what games were coming out and when, and I would play them all and all that kind of stuff. And then I kept getting laid off, and so now I've just mostly. Holy cow, this looks awesome. Yeah, nervous bird, you're dead on. So let's take a look at this Concrete Genie. Sorry, my alt tab will keep coming up. Is this looks like a really crazy awesome graffiti game. Man, that's beautiful. Is this out or is this coming soon? Or coming not soon? This is neat. And this looks like gameplay. Ah. Well, man. Shoot. You should be doing this stream. That's awesome. I'm gonna look into that. I don't want to stream just me like staring at screenshots, but I'll look into that. That's awesome, man. What? Who's the developer? Who's the developer working on it? Okay, I'm just gonna move this to the other monitor so I don't have to keep switching back and forth. There we go. Oh, awesome. First party Sony, small. That's cool. How many people? What's the head count on a project that looks like that? It's probably way fewer people than I would guess. That's what I've learned. Sorry if I'm just like rotating the view back and forth. Like I said, this is my first time ever streaming anything, so it's gonna take me a while to get used to the feeling of being watched. 14, so 14 plus 4 or 5, so like 20 max. That's nuts. Whoops. That's cool. That's a good number. I've worked for much larger and much smaller than that. 20 would be feels like a nice, healthy kind of number. You can like really get something cool done, but you're not so bloated that like, yeah. I mean, margins these days are so thin, regardless of how many people you have, but yeah. So I'm thinking 2 computers here, just like I have my drinking fountains. Just because that seems to get us closer to the door. Education. So a lot of this is self-taught, I guess you could say, for me, but I did go to university for this, so college, university. I went to college and study. My degree is in animation, even though I'm not an animator. The program was more like a all production, so animation industry, animation art. So modeling. Oops, jeez, sorry. Um, Modeling, animation. It was for film, so even compositing, effects, all that kind of stuff. We did it all. Kind of the main crux of the program that I was in. We would make and produce a senior 3D short film. One film for the entire senior class. So it's not like CalArts where everyone does their own film. So they tried to model it closer to the studio system. Which was cool at the time, even though I kind of switched more to games. So I'm going to combine these things and then just so I can extrude them really easily. But I've been dabbling in 3D stuff, especially for video games, since I was a preteen, before I could drive. I first got started. I downloaded WorldCraft for Quake 1 at a friend's house because I didn't have internet at my house, but I did have a zip drive that I would carry in my backpack as I rode my bike, and brought that home with me. And that thankfully had, in the help menu, it had a like tutorials built into the help menu, so I didn't need to go on the internet to kind of learn how to use it. And that was where I got started, and I kind of just never stopped. I first started learning actual 3D on a program called Lightwave. I think it was like Lightwave 3 was my first actual polygon 3D package. Yeah, and that was back in turn of the century, like year 2000 kind of stuff. And then I didn't do a lot of 3D for a long time until I went to college in 2006, and that was when I learned Maya. Hey everybody, thanks for showing up. 6 people is a lot. Okay, yeah, concept art. The artists who just never stopped drawing. That's what I say. The difference between quote unquote regular folk and artists is that the artists just never stopped drawing and the regular folk did. How has concept art been treating you? So I got these cubes here, and I'm just gonna export them out to the engine, get them in the engine ASAP. They're a little messy, so I'm going to put them in my prototype folder, which just has random stuff. We'll call this Torb's Corner. I just want to get them in there and see what they're like. So I'm going to go ahead and delete a lot of this stuff. Welcome everyone. This is my first stream, so if it's a little rough, I apologize. I've never streamed anything in my life. This is the first time, so forgive me if I ramble on a bit and if I look in weird places and if I'm not as slick as some of the other streamers. I apologize. I'll get better, I promise. Perspective. You'd rather deal with perspective and colors than Maya. That's true. That's, the thing about what I do is perspective is kind of handled for me, but I still have to worry about all that composition crap. Okay, just let me know if it's too much. These questions are good. I like the questions. I could talk for hours about nothing. I'm that kind of person. Um, but I'm not convinced that people care about what I have to say. Um, so I rambled about that at the beginning of the stream. So the Woo 50, thanks for streaming. What made you want to start streaming? Um, no one was here to hear me, but it's okay. Um, so basically, I've been really enjoying. I've been really enjoying having the. So I have a thread on Polycount. So I don't know if any of you came from there. Um, and just having a place to go and like collect my thoughts and my policies and my methods and all that kind of stuff was really great. And then people would come and talk with me. So like having that back and forth has been really great. Um, and now I think the project has a lot of momentum. There's a lot of meat in the project already, and so I don't know. I'm just looking for a way to kind of continue to catalog my process. So I like before the streaming, um, I tried doing some video capture of some of my modeling and stuff, and even some like voiceover, me talking and kind of explaining the process. I don't know. I think there's a lot of value to having that. Like I can take that and show it to people. I can show it to people who I might want to work for and be like, look, here's me working. Um, or I can just have it to show to my kids later, or I can have it just for myself to be like, oh man, I wonder how I did that or that the other thing. But basically, like visibility, I really would love to continue to increase the visibility of my work, just like every artist, I think. But having this, like, I've been working on this since last April, largely in a vacuum. Like, I have a couple friends that I've been sending stuff to from the beginning, but I don't know. It's super exciting to like get people's reactions, especially in real time as I'm working on stuff. To have people be like, "Oh, that's cool," or "Oh, that's lame," or "That's that's super valuable," especially at this point in the project when like I have enough down that I've convinced people of my idea that my idea isn't crazy. Um, but there's so much to be gained by having people come in and be like, "I see what you're trying to do, but why don't you try this?" Or why do you do your modeling that way? Or have you ever thought of this part of Unreal? Just to have that back and forth, I think. Um, Plus, streaming is kind of a thing right now, right? Like everybody's doing it, just like smoking cigarettes. So don't smoke cigarettes. Um, yeah, so I thought I'd try it out. Um, Oh, you saw the 80 level article. Yeah, the 80 level article too. Like reaching like that many people getting to see my work and like getting reactions to it has been super valuable. And yeah, I just thought I'd try it out. Um, Thanks for coming though. Thanks for coming to check it out. Nervous Bird. It's nice to hear about it all. A lot of people I know want to get into the game design and Unreal after working at Weta Digital for so long. You know a lot of people who worked at Weta? So let's see. Some of my margins are off here. So I did this little block in, just quick block in with cubes and such. And then brought it in here and just threw it in just to get a feel for objects in the space. I'm all about working in engine as soon as possible, as much as possible, even if it's just cubes and crap I'm gonna throw away like this. The more I can get in and feel it and run around it, the better. The more often I can do it. I need to turn collision off on these. Wah-wah. Yeah, man. Yeah, so like even just standing here in the FOV that I've been designing with, which is 100, you can really start to tell if what's working and what's not. Like these are a little thick, right? I think a height is maybe okay. Maybe they're a little too tall, but they're just massive, too thick, right? So there's several people who weren't here at the beginning. So this is kind of like a Torbjorn workspace outside, like an ad hoc kind of. He just like dragged a bunch of desks and computers and crap out because he wanted to work outside. I even talked about putting like a mannequin over here, maybe in the corner over here actually, where this box is, like one of those the sparring dummies, like in the shape of the body, like an upper torso of a man, or what have you. Putting one of those in the corner that has Mercy's wing pack on it, like it's been damaged and Torb's been repairing it out here. He did it outside because sometimes it like flies off or whatever the justification is in my brain. Nobody cares about but me. Yeah, but having some computer stuff and some workbench desks and tool cabinets, toolboxes. That's it. And a couple of big computer servers that he's dragged out. So he's dragged them out from here, and he's got his cables all hooked in, and his don't you dare unplug it. Should I run around a little bit? So the interior, I think, is pretty much all I've shown so far. The frame rate isn't the best with the streaming and stuff, and unoptimized. A lot of unoptimized stuff going on, but this is kind of what it's like in here. These are my physics props. That if I step on wrong, it freaks out. But they're pretty fun. A little break room area, like kiosk style. Go up. See, some of these might still be too big, too tall. May have to shrink some of these down, but on the other hand, if you go in to some of the maps as Genji and run around, he's literally this short. So maybe I just say that I'm Genji in this, or I do the easy thing and I just move the FPS camera up a little bit and adjust it that way. Yeah, so this wall I still have to figure out what goes there. It's pretty empty. Got my loot boxes and the emblem. It's kind of a different feel running around it than it is on the screenshots. So some of you who have like read the article or something, you might be going like, whoa, that's way bigger than I thought it would be or whatever. I want to have some like crayon drawings of some of the Overwatch team, like up on Anna's door. Like young Farah has been like drawing her mom's friends and whatnot. And for Reyes's door, I was imagining like a moody 15-year-old would have like a keep out skull and crossbones image or a sign on there. Just anything to bring the personality in. Yeah, running around gives it kind of a lot of context. I did that video of me running around, but it's different even from that, oddly enough. It really changes. Like I'd go on big stretches where I would be working on something and just looking at it in Unreal without running around on it. And then I would finally, after like a week of working on like an area or something, I'd jump in and actually run around and be like, whoa, it's way too big or too small, or it doesn't fit. Yeah. Here's the guard, little like a guard station type check-in point. Right, and then the main blast door. So that would lead into that domed atrium entryway, which the gondola station feeds into the main entry hall under a bigger dome. It all makes sense in my head. I have it all. So this sitting area, I had actually tried like setting up a waiting room type situation with like a rug and some nicer chairs and like I made a table. It's all in here somewhere. I should pull it out. And I felt like it was really like I thought it would be a cool contrast of like let's put it like a nice waiting room type situation here, even like on the backdrop of all these industrial pipes and stuff. And it ended up just like fighting each other. Like the waiting room chair, like that didn't make any sense with the pipes and stuff. So I thought I was being clever, but really I was just fighting myself. And so I've switched it to this. This will be a vending machine, and then just like a line of kind of more generic chairs, and maybe like a magazine or something. So just taking it, I think what was happening is there's this guard station here, and then there was this waiting room place over there, in this door, and there were multiple stories fighting for dominance here, and it just didn't make any sense. And then with like all the pipes and stuff, it just everything was fighting each other, and so making this over here way more generic. And then that lets me build this up. So I want to put some more props in here, give it a bit more personality over here, and make this the kind of the mini focal point of this space, rather than fighting, you know. Anyway, yeah. So that's basically it. And then up there you can see the dome. That would be over the entryway, the entry hall, and then this big picture window. Behind that is the entry hall that I won't be making. And then that's the gondola station up there. It's like grand staircase down into the entry hall. And then back there, those are, I guess I can get out of here. These are hangars. So there's like in the comic there's like a training facility somewhere, and there's some hangars that the dropships fly out of. So I would imagine this over here to be like the main doors of one of the hangars, and the dropship would fly out of there, you know, take off kind of in that direction over the mountains. And then this wing here is the office block. So and that's where I'll jump in here again. I didn't go into Morrison's office. So these are like shipping containers converted into offices, or, you know, special ops control rooms, whatever I want to do there. Whatever you can imagine going on in there. And then I used to have all these lines going like all over the place, every which way in different colors, and it was super busy. But so like, I think back this way was the training, the training facility and the infirmary or something like that. Like I have the what's beyond these doors kind of imagined in my head, and then this is hangar access that way, with Torb's cable jamming the door open. Oh yeah, and my little console log in, log out effect. That was fun. And then yeah, so over here, like I said, is the office wing. So Bill Petrus in the lore is the director of Overwatch, and then Jack Morrison is the strike commander, the leader of the troops of Overwatch. Bill Petrus is actually, shoot, what is he? He's a real person. He's not the game director, because that's Jeff Kaplan, but he's one of the. I'm gonna get his title wrong, so I'm just gonna stop. But he's one of the main guys on Overwatch. Yeah, so that's where that's blocked off, and then here's Jack's office. So this was my vertical slice, and the lights do this weird flickering thing. This was my vertical slice, so this is what I did very first. After I kind of imagined out the whole space, um, and did some blockouts, figured out roughly the layout of things, I immediately, as fast as I could get past all that pre-production work, I went into this and just worked on this room for a good month and a half, iterating on it, doing different versions of it, figuring out. This is where I figured out how all these panels fit together and what's behind the panels, because in the comic that none of that. It's just shades of gray layered on top of each other. There's nothing to make sense of, so I had to kind of figure out. If you don't know, the comic I'm talking about is the Uprising event comic that they came out with last April or whenever it was, March or April. I'm basing this whole thing kind of off of that. That was the germination point for the idea. Yeah, and it's where I kind of developed some of my decals, which look like that's supposed to be punching in, but it looks like it's punching out. Yeah, figuring out the wall panels and what to do there. And then these teal objects are my props, block-in placeholder thingies, which I can remove. If I can find it in my outliner. Because at one point I got to the point where I had a room, and the room looked okay, but it looked really it's not letting me, but it looked really bare. Jeez. Sorry, I obviously don't know. I alt-tabbed out of that window, lost it for some reason. It looked really bare and sparse, and I was wondering is the way I've rendered it wrong, or does it just look wrong in the way that a brand new house looks wrong that doesn't have any furniture in it? So I went in and made all these objects really quickly, really dirty, just to fill it with visual stuff, and it just to get the feel for so is it the walls and the floors that are wrong, or is it just that it's just too empty and I'm not used to that. Yeah, and then I got the number 76 dad cup, and then I have it's hard to see because of these placeholder things, but I have an old soldier's cup. Let's see if I can get a good a cup you'd get in the army or whatever. So these were some of the first bespoke props that I made, and again, same thing as the vertical slice, just trying to reverse engineer the style and the fidelity of things, because Overwatch is actually pretty low res, because it's a competitive first-person shooter. That's really dark. So they keep things really low res. Oh, my light turned on. I gotta figure out these lights. Of course, it turns off when I want to come over here. Alright, I'll figure out those lights. Yeah, but there's that cup. Number 76 dad. Yeah, so just going through the full pipeline on a whole little room like this, and then going through the full pipeline on some objects. I got a book here that's kind of where I started developing my Overwatch brush, my Photoshop brush that I made. So you can see the splotchy texture on the book. Yeah, so a lot of what I do was born here and reverse engineered here based on the game and looking at the game. and as such, it's a little kind of janky. I haven't gone back in and like retouched it. So I think some things like these vents are a bit too realistic and a bit too like the corners are too sharp. They're not round enough. They're not soft enough. The metal on them isn't quite there. So there's some remnants of like of where I was, and I've progressed since then. That's kind of more obvious when you come out to areas like this. Yeah. So anyway, that's me talking forever about the project in general. So now we're out here, and these computer servers are too thick, and I think I don't know. I might want to put Mercy's interesting thing over here, and then I can run like cables from there. Yeah, no problem. Like, it still blows my mind that there's people who are interested in this other than me. So I'm happy to talk about this for hours and hours. Because man, I've been living in it for months. So I am glad that you all, well, not all, but I'm glad that some people find it interesting. Yeah, so I think I might want to put something more interesting out here where, like, so these are the main traffic lanes. So you'd run through here, so I wouldn't want to shove something really cool in the back corner necessarily. If I put something here, like if I put Mercy's wing pack here, then I can run the cables across the space, which you would never do in real life, but it would look cooler in the video game, rather than keeping it all like tidy up against the wall. So I might do that. I might have something boring like a toolbox over here, and then something more interesting over there. Dude, that's like the biggest compliments that I've gotten at all ever on this project are when people say that like looking at my stuff makes them want to do their own stuff. That's a big deal for me. So thank you very much, Nervous Bird. That's awesome. And I am, if any of these millions of words that I say and write down does anything to help anybody or push them towards learning more stuff or going for the stuff that they want, like I mean, you're not. Yeah. Mavi Skies. Welcome. You've probably been here for a while, but that's the first message I've seen from you. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people can go on and on about their art style, and you're like, well, duh. I don't know. I feel like a lot of what I feel like I'm the last person to discover the stuff that I'm learning, right? Like oh, everybody obviously knows this except me, and I'm I'm just the last person to the party, you know. But yeah, if anything that I'm doing, is interesting to you, then thank you. That's an immense compliment, and I'm very glad. If there's anything that I do or anything that you see in my project that you're like, what? Why did you do that or whatever? Then please ask. I'm happy to talk about this stuff. As is apparent from all of the work I'm getting done. So I think something that's probably a better size for those, and then I'm butting up against this pipe, not pipe, this oh, you're working on something? You're working on stuff too? Good. I'm glad people are doing other things while they're watching me, so I don't have to be their sole point of entertainment. So I think this pipe won't terminate here. I have this, so here now. Being on stream like this means you also get to see all of like the dirty parts of my project. And I've tried to be honest in the thread and in various places where like I've screwed up, so I'm not super like I'm not gonna clutch those pearls. But just be warned that there's gonna be some things that are not pretty about this. So I have these yellow pillars, right? As kind of like the like this is the orange, kind of the warmer orange, green, and wood tones, like that kind of stuff. And then the hallways are the more clinical, like this is a facility areas with the blue and the brighter yellow. Yeah, human. Yes, lots of mistakes here. So I put the yellow pillars in here as kind of like a lead in, like a bridge between the two spaces. Like here's the warm, like living space, and then the yellow pillars lead you into the clinical space. So I have this yellow, and then blast doors separate separate the two spaces. So these would be blast doors if they were actually built out bigger than that. Meh. These don't go anywhere. They're just in there. And then so I have this one. That's kind of the focal point. I'm gonna hang some screens on it. Probably not in that configuration. But then when I came out here, what am I hiding back here? Oh, that's right. That's up too high. So that pillar 1 pokes through. The two white panels you see there are the penetration from the blast door frame. And so to resolve that, and then it's up higher because if I pull back, you can see there's stairs that go down to ground level, right? I can't remember exactly why I have those stairs, but I did. Like I built these ones over here because, yeah, this is where I planned the stairs. I put the stairs here because I thought they were interesting visually, like breaks up the space. But that means I have to consolidate like the plane shape just like you would if you were building real buildings. So, but this column doesn't. In order for it to line up and look correct in here, which it still looks a little janky, but in order for that to line up, it has to be up high, but it sticks out. And so, so I just duped this other one and stuck it there where it makes sense for in here. And then, because you never, like, if you really come here and like try to catch me on it, you can. But for the most part, you're going to be out here and see a yellow column, and then you're going to run in through here and just see a yellow column. And your brain will be like, oh, that's that yellow column. So, yes, dirty tricks. I also have to hide these at some point. That's you can see the roof things, the ceiling things that I extruded them up there, so I'm gonna have to figure out some greeble panels to put on there. But yeah, that column is great. I was like, oh man, like I don't want to have to like cut up this column, because that's the other thing is like you want to reuse assets as much as possible. So that column and that column and that column, they're all the same assets, so they're instants. So you save on stuff. So I didn't want to like have to model a specific column just for right here when I have perfectly good, yeah. So anyway, sweep it under the rug. That's right. Okay, I got a couple questions here. Hi, Clowworks. Hi, how do you prepare the UV and texture and texel density? Like, do you plan on a texture before? Plan on a texture first before modeling. Yes and no. So a lot of my process has been kind of the way. Let me undo some of this stuff so I can get these objects back. Well, whatever. I'll just move. The way you see here, I'll block things in with these cubes and stuff. And so these bespoke props probably aren't the best example of what you're asking. I don't know, man. Like a lot of it is really iterative, which means I do a little bit of work at a time, and that the work that I do immediately before informs what I do next. Um, as far as textile density, I've with this project I've really just been eyeballing it, if I'm honest. Um, so early on, I pulled a bunch of textures. Yeah, check out that article. I'm sure it will be more informative than me on textile density. I pulled a bunch of textures out of Overwatch early on. Don't tell anybody. Um, I haven't used any. I just wanted to look at them, and what struck me most, besides how I mean they're extremely economical and they're extremely well authored and well painted, but they're all very low resolution. Excuse me. So in general, I knew if I wanted to target the in-game look, I would have to kind of mimic their procedures. And so I just, for textile density, I try to see how low I can go. If I had to come up with a rule that I follow, um, I try to see how low I can go before things start to fall apart. So you look at stuff like this book, like this is a hero kind of vignette area. Like this is Winston was here and he left his glasses and his book and his peanut butter here. So it's kind of an important thing, but I still wanted to push that as low as I felt comfortable. And you're going in doubles and halves, so it falls apart really quickly. It gets pretty apparent. So let's see. I don't know if I answered your question. How do you prepare the UV and texture? As far as the UVing, like like doing the vertical slice in here, this was also where I started developing my first textures and materials. So the wall texture here, the crisscross floor, kind of was born here, and yeah, it's just been a lot of eyeballing. A lot of times I would say most of the time I do think about the texture before I do modeling. Especially I try to think about if I already have a material that would work for something that I'm modeling. If I can double up, then that's great. And if that's the case, then I will model to fit that texture. Yeah. But if it's going to be something, if I don't know what the texture is going to be, then I'll just model it however I want it to look, form-wise. But yeah, I'm also not afraid to throw things away if I find a better solution. There's no deadlines on this. This is my project. I'm the art director, and I'm the producer and the project manager on it. So I get to move my dates. I get to slip my own dates as much as I want. So I don't know if I answered your question exactly the way you were imagining I was going to. But yeah, it's just been a lot of iteration, trying to keep texture sizes as low as possible, as I was comfortable with. Because if you look in game in Overwatch again, like stuff is lower than you think it is. They do very well. They author and paint the textures very well, so that they can go as low as they do. But definitely check out that article. I haven't read that article, but if the Woo 50 is recommending it, then I bet it's pretty informative. So, getting back to this, the heights felt okay, and kind of the general space feels okay. So I'm just going to dig into some of this modeling, which, yeah, if I go quiet, no offense. But some of this stuff, a lot of the stuff I have kind of in my brain, just from running around the game. So I do look at the game a lot, obviously, but I even I think I talked about in my thread how like most I look at all of the things that I do as all the things in the project as problems that need solutions, right? And then as soon as you've solved all of the problems, then the project is done. And so if there are problems out there that already have solutions, I would rather adopt those solutions and move on. So there's stuff like this in the game that have kind of already been solved, right? And I don't necessarily want to rip. I don't want to spend my time recreating exactly this. But there are design elements here that I can pick out, like this big round tab bit that wraps over the top, for example. These kind of elements, these detail elements of like the bolts, and even the way the panels are cut out and they have this like angle on it. You know, it's not a right angle. All the corners get cut at 45-degree angles and stuff, and everything has like notches bit out of them. All the way down to like the way the texture is painted and how much detail is in that texture. It's largely just a color, right, and mostly carried by the normal. But there is painted detail in there. If you didn't have, it would look wrong. So this can inform, especially if you're doing an emulation, this can inform a lot of stuff and just solve a lot of problems for you. And then you can take that and be like, okay, I'm going to make my own version of this. But man, sometimes I just zoom in on this stuff and like look at, they've modeled all the drawer casters and all like the rubber seal on the top. You gotta look at that kind of stuff. It's like that ladder's great example of like a nice detailed element, and then you put the detail where it's important but leave it out where it's not, right? So I'll look at a lot of this kind of stuff, screenshots I've taken, and be like, well, I have to make a workbench, I have to make a toolbox, why don't I look at the toolbox they've made? So I have a big folders full of super high-res screenshots I've taken. And some of that's my reference for the brush that I made. I think these are the textures I pulled from Gibraltar. Yeah. So while I'm in here, let's find some more of the Winston area in Gibraltar that's kind of a workshop-y tool type area. Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, this kind of stuff. This is what I'm going for. So again, I don't want to copy, but I want my stuff to have the same DNA. I want you to be able to hold up both things side by side and look at it and be like, oh yeah, they're from the same world, right? So that's a great, look at that toolbox back there. Tom, awesome. Thank you very much. Again, I'm always surprised when people other than me care about what I do. So yeah, that article, that was super fun to write and put together. Yeah, and super humbling. I'm glad so many people have apparently enjoyed reading it. Oh yeah, and then these console tables, these are in there too. Sorry, I'm not going to spend the whole time showing you screenshots of a game you've already played a million times. Yeah, so this kind of stuff like black glass top, all these rounded edges and all that kind of stuff. I want that kind of stuff to be present. So yeah, for people who've jumped in since I've started, this is my first time streaming anything, especially me working. Usually I tend to be the type of artist who wants to go in a dark room and work on my stuff and not show anybody until it's done, and I'll hiss at you if you come in and try to see what I'm doing. And so this is really out of my comfort zone. This is really kind of new for me, and so I'm sure I will ramble on, and I'm sure that I'll do things like I just did, where I like bevel an edge for no reason and then have to undo it, just because I'm not. This isn't the way I'm used to working. But it's really fun talking to you guys and having that back and forth. So it's definitely something that I want to do, especially if this many people come in. Thank you for showing up, everybody. I really appreciate it. I expected there to be nobody. So I do appreciate you all being here and listening to me ramble. It's just kind of super. It's hard for me to get in the zone of working and talk and yeah, all that kind of stuff. So I'm obviously much more. Obviously, the people who've been here for a while now know that I'm much more comfortable like showing you a picture of something and talking about it for half an hour. But I do want to get work done. So one thing I talked about before is just how round everything is in this game. Like everything. Chloe works, yeah, no problem. Yeah, if I don't answer somebody's question correctly, just feel free to ask it again. And I'll try again. You guys are like, no, just shut up and model. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, I'll I'm just gonna tweet this stuff, not that stuff. But that stuff. I'll come in here into Maya and make something like really round and soft, and I think I got it nailed, and then I put it in the game, and it's just way too like thin and meticulous. Not meticulous. What's the word? I can't think of the word. It's like delicate, I guess. And in Overwatch, everything is so much more round than you expect it to be, and so much like everything's nice and soft. So sometimes like I'll make something thick like this console table. I'll make it nice and thick, and then I'll go to bevel the corners and make it round, and I'll have to bevel the corners so much that I actually have to make the table thicker so that there's an actual flat surface between the bevels. And I think that's partly why some of the scales on some of the objects in the actual game are so crazy. Like I was saying, run around as Genji, or Genji was the most surprising one. Run around as Genji in King's Row and go stand next to a table in one of those shops, or next to a cash register in one of those shops, and he's like tiny. There's a huge cash register. There's garbage cans that are like up to your chest. It's crazy. And you don't notice. Nobody cares because it's beautiful. So I'm definitely gonna have to practice doing this stuff while people are watching me. This is crazy. But let's see if we can't. See if we can't do some of this stuff. Get some of this stuff blocked in. So yeah, I think I'm gonna want to work on kind of this general vignette area on stream. So maybe if I make this a regular thing, tileables, yes. So I don't have a lot of trim sheet style materials actually, but I do have a lot of tileables, and this is definitely a tileable asset. So let's pop in here real quick. In my materials here, and again, like, you're gonna see me doing all kinds of bad stuff. If you see something that I'm doing that you're just like, whoa, I can't believe that, call me out on it, please. I will be happy to learn it, rather than look at all my friends playing games, rather than have you all laugh at me and not tell me about it. So I have kind of some basic materials that I play with, and this is one of them. Just kind of this generic plastic. I actually made the maps, the textures for this plastic material in Substance Designer, and I just did that so I could use it in Substance Painter. So this material, this just generic plastic with some patterns on it and stuff, is the base material for a lot of my props. So it's got like some spots on it. I don't know if you can see that. It's got like some spots on it, and let's see if I can get that nice and big. Got some spots on it, got some, but it's really subtle. It's more of, it's meant to just serve you a color, right? It's not meant to draw attention to the surface detail, but it's there if you look for it. Which color is first and foremost in listen to me talk like I'm an expert. And from what I've observed and tried to figure out, color is kind of like the main important thing in Overwatch. They want you to see color first. Yeah, so I use this as a base for a lot of stuff, and I'll throw, so like this table I'm building is kind of made to look like these, like this white border edge. I'm just gonna throw that gray plastic on it and call it good. On some of these, like, they'll go in and highlight the edges, but you can get away with a lot not doing that. In all your textures, what tends to be the range of your roughness, all the way from 0 to 1 or something more limited? Definitely more limited. I don't know. This is the first project of this size and scope that I've done in Unreal Engine 4. Before this, it's just been little vignettes and little like studies of props and stuff. And then I've done some bigger scenes in UDK, which is a whole different pipeline. But I found the margin of roughness values, at least in the lighting setup that I have in here, the margin of roughness values that looks okay and like shows all of that information is pretty narrow. Like, as you approach the extremes, it either blows out completely and it's like the Unreal chrome of chromes, the chromiest chrome you can ever chrome, or it's, just completely flat. So I definitely keep it pretty narrow. What do I got it at here? So I've screwed up my thing here. So that's the roughness map for that gray plastic material. It's pretty, like, there's some brighter splotches on here, but it's pretty narrow. And then on a lot of my materials, I'll author the texture, and then I'll have a multiply in the, like, I'll feed the roughness into a multiply, and then give myself a number, do this kind of thing, just so I can kind of tune it with this number, give it like little incremental changes, just so I'm not in Photoshop like moving the level sliders by tiny amounts and then re-exporting all that kind of stuff. Just a little lazy, but if it's something like obvious, if I'm like multiplying it by like 5, then obviously something's gone wrong in the texture. And in the there's some of these where I use material instances, and I'll expose that multiply number as a parameter. So in all other instances of that material, I can tune it. Nothing too fancy. Lerp the roughness. Okay, I think I get what you mean, but feel free to expound. For my current scene in UE4, I've been using 0.65 to 1. Yeah, I mean, the way I've been approaching this project and the way, yeah, if it looks good, then do that. I think most of it is based on your lighting setup. Like I'm using I'm using light propagation values, which is not a lighting setup that I would necessarily recommend, because it's very expensive. But it does mimic Overwatch's real-time GI. They have some kind of a GI solution that helps. I'm sure they're baking, but it gives me a real-time global illumination, which just makes that kind of lighting setup really simple. I don't have to go in and bake lights ever. So yeah, if you were wondering, all my lighting is real-time. I don't bake at all, which, like I said, is probably a mistake, but it works for my needs, which is to make something pretty that I can just run around in. I don't think I would make an actual game with it. Maybe, hopefully someday, soon, that would be possible. Okay, this is obviously wrong here. Let's linear interpolate, that's lerp. Lets you control the maximum and minimum of the values. Oh, I think I know what you just see. So you clamp the values, and then you can kind of fiddle with the mask, basically. I get the general concept, but I would probably have to see it set up to really grasp it, especially while I'm streaming and distracted and self-conscious. Alright, let's get this going here. So let's see what it does if I do this. It's probably more accurate inset. So do I want to inset? Oops. Yeah, those definitely have a... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Those definitely have a lip edge where the screen is lower than the thing. Do that in a mask material, just piping a minimum parameter and a maximum parameter into a lerp using the roughness texture as the alpha. Ah, I get it. The hardest thing for me, for UE4 subsystem designer, is just understanding what all the nodes do and how to use them. Yeah, yes. Man, I've worked with some people who, speaking of designer and that kind of, designer's very UE, like the Unreal material editor style. So here's one of these bevels where I'm gonna have to make it bigger than I feel like I should, just so it looks right in game. And then Maya does all these weird things with it. Yeah, no, I get that setup that he talked about, using the roughness texture as a using the roughness texture as a alpha. That's clever. Actually, this I want to bring down. Where's my? There it is. There. I want to kind of bring this down and give it some real thick. What was I talking about? Oh, substance designer. Yeah, like I've worked with some people who, like, I worked with this guy who's just like traditional. He started out as a traditional artist, like he paints and he's super awesome draftsman. And then, so not like a super technical mind, but he like we started him on substance designer at my last job, and he just got it. He's just like, it was like the Matrix, like all he saw was blonde, redhead, brunette, like, and just started going. Like his spin up time on it was maybe a week before he was just spitting out professional stuff. It was like, how? Because I started on computers first and then went art second. So I feel like I'm more technically inclined. At least it doesn't scare me. But yeah, some of the substance designer stuff that's in there, I'm just like, meh, I don't understand. I just haven't sat down and forced myself to understand. No, that's all. Oops, I wanted to offset that. Give it just a little bit of thick. So that's kind of, oh no, what have I done? What have I done? There. Yeah, so that's probably the extent of the modeling I'll do for a lot of the tables. Except this is super annoying. If I just draw a new one. No, just draw a new one right where I want it. And delete the old one. Bye-bye. Substance designer rules, but I definitely spent several weeks of how the hell do I do anything? Yeah, that's how I was with when I started UDK. I bought some 3D Motive video tutorials of like making materials and just went through those. Because that node-based thing really threw me. Because before that, I had just been working in Maya. Because in my college program, it was just like Maya shaders and moving sliders and making textures. And then I jump into Unreal, and it's like, build your own material. Just do it. Don't ask questions. Still not as bad as the UE4 material stuff. Way too much math for me to handle. Yeah, I feel like I've been lucky in this project, because if you do go and look in Overwatch, they'll occasionally have, so obviously their effects, like all effects in any video game, use a lot of like interesting shaders and fancy tricks and stuff. Jub. Thanks, man. Jub is an old friend of mine. I haven't talked to him in forever. And yeah, I used to have much longer hair than this. Whatever I was saying. I forgot. I'm sure it was very profound. Unlike these bevels, why didn't I put more edges in these bevels? Gross. Let's just go ahead and do that. Whoops. Oh, I was saying in Overwatch, so like the effects are where they spend all their fancy shader budget, right? Excuse me. That's where a lot of games spend all their shaders. But for their environments, most of the Most of the stuff, most of the environment textures and shaders and stuff are just like the simplest shaders that. And again, I don't know. I don't obviously don't know exactly, but from what I can tell, it's just albedo, normal, sometimes a roughness, metallic, just done in the most expert ways, you know, done in true Blizzard polish style. Um, yeah, so with this project, with like the Unreal, I haven't dug into the material system very much beyond, you know, I have a couple. I have a lot of unique kind of materials that I've set up, but I have a little collection of master materials that I instance off of. But I haven't even done very many blends, like lerp blends and stuff for the most part. The fanciest tech I have going on here, material wise, is decals. Yeah, like, so I know some people who work on WoW, World of Warcraft, and like it wasn't too long ago that they finally got normal maps, like, and they made like that game still. They've been keeping it up really well, but even the original you can look at and be like, oh, there's still like artistically there's still beauty here and there's still merit there, and it's just because they're good painters. They paint a mean texture. Jeez, ow. Yeah, wait. Yeah, so it's been nice in this project because it like during my research phase, I was like, oh, let's see what they're doing. Let's try to really dig in. And all I could find was just like model some clean high res textures to bake your normals and make them be pretty colors and put in some painted detail. You're good to go. A little bit goes a long way. I think I've talked about here and there, like they only seem to put detail where they need it, and they only seem to spend as long as they need to on any given object, right? Yeah, some like you're talking about Nervous Bird, you're talking about like from StarCraft 1 to StarCraft 2, like having things felt a little. I can see what you're saying. StarCraft 2 is pretty shiny, right? I'm trying to find an example of something like, I don't know, just running around this game as much as I have. Excuse me. You come across some stuff where you're just like, wow, that's in the game. Like they shipped with that, and it fits, and it's only as looks only as good as it needs to. But if you really like put it up in your face, you're like, wow, that's the simplest prop I've ever seen. Stuff like this fire extinguisher, I guess, but not even that. But like that, yeah. See, they only spend as much time on that. Like they didn't go in and model like a nice fire extinguisher. They're just like, burp, burp. It's red. It's got some white things on it. Like really smart kind of stuff like that. And I try to do that, but on the other hand, I'm also trying. Like part of the goal here is to impress people, because I mean it's a portfolio piece, right? Whoops. So I do tend to go into more detail than I need to. You know what? I'm just gonna be okay with that being messy for right now. It's not the end of the world, right? Cool, guys. Look at me modeling tables on stream. So I'm just gonna get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, I wonder though, like, looking at those old games, I wonder how much of that grittiness or that detail is in our heads. Not necessarily nostalgia, but just like Minecraft. Minecraft's like the ugliest game I've ever played. But I've definitely been in a Minecraft game before where I've come across something and sat there and been like, wow, that's beautiful. And I think like because it's so ugly, it forces your brain to fill in the gaps, you know? Like it leaves your exactly. It leaves your imagination to go in and be like, wow, this is bad. Let me fix this up. Cuz like what the stuff in Minecraft represents is cooler than what it actually is. Like, oh, that's a mountain, that's a waterfall. No, it's just a bunch of cubes. Mental tessellation, that's an awesome term. That's exactly right. Simple yet interesting. Yeah, it describes a lot of the props. Just a lot of the art direction in the Overwatch environments in general. Yeah, I haven't gone into the remastered StarCraft for that kind of partly for that reason. Like, it's cool that they did that. I think it's awesome, but I kind of like the old pixely. You know, I didn't have any problems with the way that looked. I guess is what you could say. Like the quality of life improvements, I'm sure are great. Let's make sure that this is lining up. I'm sure it plays better and everything, and it's more modern and more in line with modern games and stuff. But I don't know. Like I remember printing out screenshots of StarCraft and like putting them in my binder. I had one of those binders with like the clear plastic pocket on the front. Hi, welcome to my stream. Let's talk about my old school binders. But I remember like printing out screenshots of StarCraft and being like, "Oh, this is cool. This looks cool. Like it's visually cool." That is cool. You can switch between the two, kind of like the old LucasArts game, like what's that company? Double Fine did for Full Throttle and Day of the Tentacle. That's cool. That another sorry. Another great example of that effect of like, because I played those old LucasArts adventure games too, back when they were old and pixely, and especially Full Throttle. Like I played the new one, the remastered one, and I was like, no, the original was like more painted out and like more gritty. Yeah, gritty. I guess is a term you could use too. And then I went and looked up screenshots of it, and it's like, no, it's just old and pixely. It's like, but my kid brain back then was like, oh, it's this biker town with dirt and filled in all those details. Man, I'll tell you what, I'm jealous of limited. So I'm somewhat, in some ways, jealous of those limited tools, back then. Like they used to talk about how they would make Quake 2 deathmatch maps in a weekend, right? And I remember making maps for Quake 2 and Quake 1. There we go. I remember working on those and just like surfacing, texturing was just like applying an already existing texture to the brushwork I had done, and that was it. It was done. It was textured. But that's the price we pay. All right, let's chuck this. So I'll leave that in for now. I'm gonna chuck this in. This is kind of a bespoke prop, so you may have noticed when I exported these, I just kind of exported them in place, and that was so I could bring them in and then zero out their transforms, which I've moved them around since then, but I can just hit zeros and they'll get to where they need to be. I do that with a lot of stuff, like especially these trims and grass and stuff that I'm never gonna copy and use somewhere else. But for something like this, which I might use somewhere, I am going to drop that pivot down to the floor so it's even with the floor, and then I have a button up here on my shelf that will move it to the origin. And if you didn't know, Unreal sets the pivot point at origin no matter where it is. That's why the exporting in place works. Cool. Sure you all knew that. And then my folder bookmarks, if you're wondering, this is the interior section. So these are all of this is all the architecture and the props that go into the interior. So I have that, and then I have my interior textures, and then I added this recently when I started the exteriors. This is my exterior mesh folder. Just a few, yeah. I mean, that's all of the architecture too, so all the walls and ceilings and crap like that. But yeah, so let's call this something that makes sense. Floor tiles. Hold on, let me name this and then I'll get to your question. Torb desk A. I'll just call all these things Torb desks. Yeah, so keeping with my naming scheme, sometimes it makes more sense than others. Sometimes you kind of have to get weird with the naming, but as long as you have some kind of system, right? My approach for the floor tiles, and then I can undo that and move that back. You're talking about these guys, the concrete tiles, or what? The concrete tiles is just a tiling texture. Let's flip over here. Yeah, desk.fbx, desk final.fbx, desk_final2. Oh, these are my textures. I want the source, texture source. Here we are. So this is that concrete texture. So you can just see it. Pretty simple. Don't look at my layers; they're all unorganized. My organization only goes so far. Eventually, somewhere in the system, it does get disorganized, and Photoshop layers are one thing. I do try to keep the different textures in different folders, though. Yeah, so I have like so I modeled the normal map. So that's what the normal looks like. And then I think this is just a curvature. It's not even like a occlusion or anything. Desk final 035, but actually the final 02. Yes. That's the kind of stuff I was trying to avoid. Doing all that stuff that I talked about in my thread. It was a cool texture until I turned off all the layers, and I don't remember which ones actually went into. I think it was something like that. Thank you. Yeah, it actually. Pardon me. Yeah, it's just I painted it like. A lot of the answers to the questions when it comes to questions like this, when it comes to Overwatch, is like, yeah, I just painted it. So I painted it. The one thing that really kind of, actually, you can see it here. I saved the original. Oh no, I didn't. There's just two different levels. So I went in and painted. You can kind of see the splotches of shades of gray. You got to be really careful not to go too make too recognizable of shapes. So go too high contrast with with the splotches because you really want them to kind of disappear as you look out over. Otherwise, you get the tiling, obviously. So that's why I have this layer here, this green layer, to like push those values down a little bit. The one thing I did do to it after I painted it is run it through, let's see, it was a pixelate, I think it was a crystallize? Yeah. Ran it through a crystallize filter after I'd painted it, and that's what gives it that like rough kind of, you can see the rough texture on the splotches. How often do you use things like Substance Designer and Painter over Photoshop? I'd say if you're talking about the project at large, it's been Photoshop probably 80%, no, 90% of the time. If you're talking about the individual props, as I'm getting more into doing individual props, like for example, the drinking fountain or the loot box. Whoa, come back. These two. So if you're talking about individual props, these were done in Painter, definitely. So I think it's just a matter of like. A lot of times, even I'll do it in Painter, and then I'll bring the texture maps from Painter into Photoshop, and finish them there. So it's a lot of Photoshop. But as far as the actual architecture, pretty much all of this was just Photoshop. This concrete was started in ZBrush. It's placeholder. I would like to redo it, but for now it works, even though it's just shades of gray. Yeah, but a lot of Photoshop and then Painter where it makes sense, like on props like this with different types of materials and just stuff where you're just like, I just want to bake an easy curvature, and yeah. See you, Trevin. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. It's good to hear from you. And yeah, I hope to stream more. It's fun. If I can get in the headspace where I can work and stream at the same time, then that'll be great. Yeah, so mostly Photoshop. I've used Designer maybe a few times, and that was just to do some. Either it was something that was just way easier to make in Designer, like something that was weird that I needed to tile really well, and instead of like painting the seams in Photoshop, I just do it in Designer. Or if I want something specifically to bring into Painter, like that plastic material, I wanted to be able to paint with that in Painter on my props, and so I built it in Designer first, just so I could have it as a material in Painter. Yeah. So let's import this guy. And turn off these filters. So you can see kind of my organization here that I talked about. In my thread, I have a thread on polycount for anybody who didn't know, where I go into a lot more detail on my process and how I've set this up and stuff. But interior and exterior are where I work most of the time. I don't even know why this is here. This is old. But prototype and block-in kind of ended up becoming the same thing. Early on, they were supposed to be different, but I've abandoned block-in, and I just use prototype as a dumping ground for just messy stuff, like these block-in objects. But interior and exterior are where and then eventually there will be a Skydome folder, and all the Skydome stuff folded in there. And then there's a mesh textures, and then the scene file. So this was my vertical slice file, interior only, just Morrison's office. Yeah, cool. No one cares. Boring. All right, let's bring this guy in here. So I left these block-ins here so I can just use them as reference. Not that I couldn't figure that out, but I have reset these from Yeah. So something like that. I can turn these off. Bloop. So there we go. Magic. Now let's go in here. Let's see. When did I start? I've been almost going for 2 hours now. Wow. Time flies. Probably go another half hour or so. Maybe an hour. Probably just half hour. But we'll see. And then I was thinking about streaming again tomorrow. I was thinking maybe Wednesday, Thursday nights. I'm not sure. I did notice tonight that the Overwatch League had a bunch of games, so thank you for coming here and watching me instead of Overwatch League. Alright, let's do some of this mess. So I don't know if this is super interesting. There, that's probably doable. Figuring out my streaming methods as I stream. I mainly, like, I could have made a bunch of graphics and crap and done some test streams and that kind of stuff. This is ending up being my test stream, but I really just wanted, since streaming's not like a thing that I am naturally inclined towards, it was just one of those things where I figured, like, just do it. Just jump in and do it before I talk myself out of it. Like, before that friction of, like, finding it uncomfortable convinces me not to. Yeah, like, I don't want to do all kinds of crazy stuff. Hold on. I got a spare thread here that's tugging on me. Yeah, I'm not... This isn't, like, my main revenue stream, although I wouldn't mind making money off it, frankly, but so I'm not gonna go nuts, but yeah, informal, simple. I'm down with that. I mean, look at where I am. So this is all gonna be tiled with that plastic material, so I actually don't care too much about it. I do want to put the seam in a decent place, so I'm going to do this thing. I don't know, I didn't know about this for the longest time, but I'm going to select, because these are all quads and they're all in kind of like a ribbon, an unbroken ribbon, right? So I'm going to unitize all those, and that puts all of them right here in 1-to-1, all on top of each other. Then I can select all their edges, deselect the ones I don't want to sew, so I don't want to sew those, and I'm going to put my seam, let's just stick it right here. So that'll be my seam, and then that'll keep those pieces separate. And then I do a move and sew, and that gives me this crazy grid. And that should be an edge loop, yeah, edge ring, I guess. Now with this, I can go to my unfold options, and with legacy, I can constrain it just to the horizontal and unfold into a strip. Yeah, I mean, so this is Maya 2016, so this is old version of Maya. I've heard, I really should jump in, should give you an idea of how long it's been since I've worked at a company that was rich enough to upgrade Maya, like every year. But I've heard that the new UVing tools are much better. There, so that gives it kind of a vaguely straight version of that. And I can just do that. Now, let's see. what materials I have here. Oh yeah, sweet, Laserhawk. I know you IRL too. Are they really? Are they good? I've been meaning to try them, but I just haven't. Yeah, like upgrading Maya and reinstalling it has been, yeah, awesome. Yeah, me too. Maybe someday. So I don't think I even have that material, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make a quick material to bring in that plastic texture, just so I can see what I'm doing. All the thing, yeah. So I way back in the day I used the Hedis UV layout, and then in a lot of my work where I need to just go fast and dirty, I'll throw it into 3D Coat and use their automatic UVs. That sounds familiar, Nightshade UV. But if Laserhawk says that he loves UV tools, then I believe that they're pretty good. Okay, where's that plastic? There it is. Just a few textures in this project. Then I need to name this. So I can know. So I want that, and I want that, and not that. Put that aside. Sorry if I'm doing something off on another monitor. Let me know. I'm trying to find it now. Where is it? Int. There it is. Plastic. Was that the one? Oh. I guess I already had it. Ah. I didn't have to do that. Okay. So yeah, you can see kind of the splotches and the subtle detail in there. So let's. I know this is thrilling, you guys. It'll be super thrilling when Maya crashes. Somebody makes a good modification for it next year's probably made. Yeah, like the modeling tools, the next tools or whatever. Yup. Hey, that's more than 3D Studio Max gets. have they added anything to 3D Studio Max recently in the past several years? And then this, I can just kind of stay where it is. Actually, no, just kidding. Let me give that that screen. Okay, I'm going to make another material here real quick so I can bring in another texture, which is called, what is it called? Just a few textures here, you guys. Sometimes it's easier just to do this. I forgot what it's named. Large screen E. Large. I had to call it large. There it is. Jeez. Okay. Now, we can do this. There we go. Ninja Dojo tools from Maya. I think I've heard that. I have. I don't want to press this because it might. I'm using for. Oh, that's a different thing. I have Ninja UV. Yeah, like a Ninja UV script that I bought forever ago, and I just don't. I don't know. I stopped using it. So if you want to see what I'm doing, it's super interesting. That's why you guys come to Twitch, is to watch somebody UV map on stream. That's the good stuff. That's the good stuff. Alright, that's all going to change when it gets an actual material later. But for now, that will do. Let's save it. The stream might end sooner if my child wakes up. Tor is called Tor Desk A. Alright. Let's get rid of you. Let's go back outside. There we go. Now we can plug in those materials real quick and just kind of see what it looks like. Jeez, it takes forever, doesn't it? That's wrong. That's right. Now the problem I've been having outside is the lighting. That doesn't look too bad. The lighting was way blown out. Because for a while I just wasn't messing with the exterior at all, so I had the same settings outside as I had inside. And it made the outside just, it was like you were walking out into an oven. Just everything was blown out like crazy. And then the screen. Ooh. So one of the first things I did when I started the exterior is set up a new post volume. The window material? Sure. You're talking about this double thing? My cheaty cheat materials? Well, it's not even materials, it's just the models. But yeah, I can show these. So two materials and two meshes. See, I can get between them here. Oh, that one's actually yeah. So the glass is double-sided, but it doesn't matter because this one's opaque, right? And then this one is only one-sided. So right here, you're just looking through the back face of that gold glass, and kind of like that pillar. Gotta remember to log off. Well, sometimes I have to jump into the game to look at something. Just like this pillar, you don't really care. Like, you run in here and you're like, oh, I can see out, but you run out here, and you're like, whatever. It's just a building. Like, your brain doesn't care. And to be full disclosure, I stole this. It's how the spawn room on Gibraltar works. When you're in that Winston area. I'm looking at you guys here because that's where my chat is, but you're actually over there. The Winston spawn room has that window upstairs that you can look out and see what the defending team is doing, but they can't see in, so they don't know what characters you play as until you come out. So I pretty much just cribbed that concept. It's a pretty simple effect, and I just didn't I didn't want those sight lines, right? Like, to be able to see all that. Just visually, the composition is terrible, but you want it out here because you want to be able to see that point of interest out there and be like, oh, I want to go out there, and then have that great thing. But they're pretty. So this one is a super simple material. Most of my materials are super simple. So here's my albedo. It's just I did that because I didn't know, like, I wanted to be able to fiddle with the color of the glass because it has a metallic. It's a fully metallic kind of glass. I didn't know what the color would do, so I wanted to be able to tune it. And then this normal map is pretty subtle. It's just I went into ZBrush and just kind of like mushed stuff around really subtle just to give it some variation. I think it needs to be toned down. It's like really cheap crap glass. Like it's been warped like crazy. Yeah, everything else is just 0.1 roughness, 1 metal. That's it. But this glass here is yeah, ZBrush is it's it's a lot to it's drinking from the fire hose, I guess. Like it makes sense once you get to the point where your brain finally accepts it. You're like, oh, I can see the logic here. But until that happens, it's just like, this isn't a program made by humans. This glass here, and all the glass for that matter, so this glass wall and my display case glass, one of the best what's it called? Yeah, outside is definitely, I did that weeks and weeks and weeks ago, and I just haven't touched it. It does kind of take over, doesn't it? It's just like, look at me, I'm weird glass. Like I'm not even sure I like the diagonal seams. Like I had that in my concept drawings, and they're much more subtle here and interesting. But yeah, where did that even go? Okay, that window just disappeared. Investment, that's the word I was looking for. The interior glass and all the glass. The file menu should go in the middle of the top menu bar. Yeah, well, I mean, file, save, document. I think everybody first starting ZBrush does that mistake rather than saving your tool, because that makes sense. It's so weird. This glass material is probably the best investment that I made. I bought a pack of glass material, glass shaders, glass materials really, off of the store. There was something forever ago where Epic gave me $30 in marketplace credit, and I spent it on this material pack called Advanced Glass Pack. I can get the actual, let's see, should be down here somewhere. Advanced Glass Material Pack is what it's called, and the guy who made it did a great job, and I just use that. So I made the normal maps. I make the maps and I dial in the settings. Excuse me, but he's got a few different master materials set up. There's clean, dirty, frozen, shattered, and wet. And the wet one has like drippy drips on it and stuff. Let's see if this will render. It's compiling shaders. That happens sometimes. There we go. So you can see like he's got like the animated drips, which that's for a more realistic game. So I mostly just use this clean glass. So here's his master. You can come in here and fiddle with it, but man, like he just set it up really well. It's obviously hard to see when you're just in the texture view. That's the master though, but if you go into the instances, let's take a look at this one actually, specifically. So he's got colors, Fresnel, effect, amounts, metallic or not. Is that material? Weird. Then you can plug in normal maps, masks. So they're probably one of the more expensive things in the scene, but I don't think they're any more expensive than most glass shaders would be. I mean, they're definitely doing stuff like refraction. They're definitely doing screen space reflections and all that kind of stuff, and Fresnel and angle-based stuff. But it's. I mean, I haven't. I should test. That's a good point. I should really test, swap them out for something simple and see if I get a big increase or not. But yeah, I think they're probably just as heavy as anything else that does that. But they do have all those bells and whistles turned on. The only thing I've noticed is like if you really play with the refraction, it can go weird. Like you can kind of see it here. Like you can see the window frame like going off. I don't know. Sometimes you want to get like a good solid refraction effect, but the more you push it, the more it breaks like the intersections, the visuals of the stuff that the glass is intersecting with. Like you can really see it on this window that I did early on. Like you could see that frame like phantoms out. No, the questions are great. I mean, I assume as I get better at answering questions, I'll be able to work and answer your questions at the same time. I think that's a me thing, not a you thing. The questions are great because it helps me kind of be interesting and fill air. So it's not just me going like, and now we're going to model this table. But hey, look, I did model a table. It has no legs, but... Let's, grain and motion blur, the first thing I do when opening a new game is turn them on. Yeah, I think I still have a bit of motion blur going on. But even Overwatch has can have depth of field and all kinds of crazy stuff that everyone turns off. I don't know. I turned off a lot of stuff though. See, this table feels a little big, right? Let's see, what was that? My stream. Look at that. Switch off of there. Let's see if I can find a good. So what is felt like that? So it may be a little big. Especially, so this is me as Mercy standing. I think I'm standing on that table actually. See, look, this is a great. Look at how simple those soda cans are. Like, they didn't. They just did what they had to, and no more. You're talking about the reflection on the, on the window glass. Yeah, maybe. Screen space reflection. I didn't think of that. That's a good point. I mean, it definitely diminishes when I turn the refraction down. Like, if I turn refraction off, that ghosty, the double images go away, but... Here we go. Just mercy. Yeah, so they're a little thinner. They're a little. So I think I probably went a little overboard with these guys, if I'm honest. It doesn't necessarily look wrong. But it's better to go, I think, too far and then tone it down than it is to not go far enough, right? So let's just see what we can do. I mean, that's probably not always true, but let's just see if I pull it back. Just like that. That edge might still be too chunky on mine, but I kind of don't mind having a chunky edge. And I think let's select this using that, please. Oh wait. Let's pull this back so that, just kidding, let's use world space. Just so that lip isn't so high. And I may want to pull these edges in. I'll look at that later. Okay, let's see if this feels a little better chunk-wise. Toward desk. So let's stand here, and then I'll hit import, and it should update. Yeah, see, that feels a bit better on those bezels, I think. So I think it's maybe a little too thick, and there's places where like the bevel curving, the bevel segments didn't curve it right, and that can be cleaned up off stream. Cool. Now it needs some legs. So I like these, like this industrial frame that they're on. That's really cool. I'll probably just do something similar. So let's do it. One kind of challenge I've had in this is trying to decide when to model something high res and then do that pipeline, where like high res and then low res and bake it out and like giving it its own normal maps, versus when to just straightforward model something as it is at game res, and bevel it up and soften it up and then just slap a tileable on it. Like making that call has been challenging for me in this project. Okay, so let's figure this out. What would a frame like this, what would it need to be like? Pretty thick, right? You need cross beam like that. And again, this is where you get into that, like how much detail, how crazy should I go on this? Like do I model out like a frame that this main crossbeam goes on, or is it just like gluing it here to the bottom? Is that enough? Probably, right? And then duplicate that out. Sure, I'll try not to ramble like I'm some kind of don't know, like I'm doing a tutorial or something. I'm not really here to do like modeling tutorials or anything. It's more just to hang out. And before I make these super thick, I want to be aware of how tall these are. So these look much higher off the ground, which means I can probably bring, whoa, I can probably bring the bottom of these up. I don't have to make them so deep. See you, nervous bird. It looks like you already left. But yeah, hopefully now's when I do the thing where I tell you to follow me. It looks like a lot of you have. And then it'll alert you. And also, I'll try to post on Twitter and Polycount and Facebook. I think I even posted on Instagram tonight. When I go live, I'll try to do this a couple times a night. Especially if I can get to a point where I can be making good progress. But I think just kind of having people around and being able to talk about stuff and answer questions and learn and like talk through my process and stuff has been really cool. So, and again, it saves all these VODs, so people can come back. I can come back and watch them later or whatever. So yeah. Thanks for hanging out. Probably gonna go for a little while longer. See if I can't get something that looks like table legs in here. I think I need a ground plane. I mean, keep in mind that these desks are technically for Torbjorn, who's pretty. That's not what I want to do. Pretty short, but that's no excuse. I think you want Torb to be short compared to whatever he's standing next to, right? You don't want him to have his own like Torb sized furniture. You want him to have to be short compared to everything else. Is that rude? If I move these to the edge, and I can do something. So you want to do something with the intersections, right? You don't want to just leave stuff like that. Also, it needs a back leg, doesn't it? Oh, I see. They have this skinnier thing that comes down, like an inset. That's cool. Maybe I want to just do that to the whole thing. So if I extrude that and offset it in, and then I can drop that down. Oops. Right. Straight down. An elevator. Yeah, step stool. Step stool is great. I really like these little round rolly stools. I made like a big beefy chair. But oh well. It's got two of them stuck. Let me pull it out in the sunlight. So I made like this big beefy office chair. Standing sitting desks. So it can like raise and lower. But this seems like overkill. This is definitely like a hero chair, right? That's Jack Morrison's chair. Look how bright that is out here and how dark it is in here. Yeah, it's like on an elevator. Those desks are cool, man. I just sit all day long. Do I want to join these? Not like that, I don't. So let's see, what am I doing here? I'll just target weld these. Oops. Simple enough. Yeah, so like this thing, these legs, do I like model them out high res and give them nice bevels and then bake all that down, or do I just model them like they are and kind of wing it? I think what I could do, and what I actually end up doing a lot, like with that, the drinking fountain, is I'll just model it out bespoke like this, game res, and then kind of paint on a lot of detail in Substance Painter. I feel like that could be a bit more detail in here. Definitely in here. So yeah, some of these modeling these things on the stream, it will be me just like trying things, and then they won't work, and maybe the stream will go nowhere. I'll be like, well, try again. Try again next time. And do I want to do something like that, or do I want to do like a peg kind of thing? Where there's like an inset. Is this too rustic? Or is that tech enough? It doesn't really look very techy, does it? And I like one of these guys in there. It's not terrible. I don't like it being all one solid piece. That makes it look too solid in through there. Like I want these desks to feel more floaty. Pre-compute AO node. Oh, okay. Yeah, usually when I do that, I'll go in when I don't have a high res to bake on. Yeah. Oh, it's good for, oh, I see. Interesting. It gives me a mask in the Unreal material so I can like lerp two tilables on. That's cool. Yeah, I'm learning all kinds of stuff. You need to come to all my streams so you can tutor me. What I'll do if I'm giving it a unique texture, I'll bake it on itself. It's like when I don't have a high res, but I want like maybe I want a curvature map or something for edge details. I'll just load a version of itself into Substance Painter and bake on itself, and then so that gives you like a really defined curvature map because there's very little difference. But then you can blur it, and it's like the poor man's bake. So you can get AO and stuff and work with it in Painter at least. I'm not sure I like that, but I want to fix this specifically. Do I want it straight down? So let's get rid of this. Don't like it. So yeah, this is what it's like when I with most things I'll design as I model, which may be frustrating to watch, and I may try to do a bit more planning ahead of time if I'm going to be streaming a lot. Try to design some of this stuff a little bit, or at least have a better idea. But on the other hand, sometimes it can be fun to see somebody just flail around for a little bit. Yeah, I mean it's served me well in a lot of places, in a lot of, you know, even professionally. Just, I mean, I worked with OWHQ, who was in here. We were on the same team for a while, and it was a team where our concept department was having to service they had to serve a lot of masters, and so instead of just waiting, like putting it in order and then sitting on our hands and waiting for concept to come out, that's a little more interesting. That I don't like. Instead of just sitting around and waiting for concept to come back, we would just kind of do this, and then you know, because we had to get our work done. Which was good. It ended up being good for us. We got to kind of be more creative, and it was great for concept because they could do the other things that they needed to do. Now that looks a little too skinny, doesn't it? Let's bulk it up. They have these nice... See, it's all about the transitions, right? Like, instead of just sitting them on the ground, they have these little feet come out, which like helps with that floor to that floor transition. Something like that might be good. Now let's see. Maybe I like it cleaner. Definitely will probably need to get a decent mic if I want to do this. Hopefully this mic isn't too bad. Yeah, I'm kind of inclined that way too. Just like, hi, I'm working. You can watch me watch me work, and I'll talk. We'll talk with each other while work happens. What's interesting too, just listening to my thoughts as I model this, like being on stream definitely makes me feel like I want to just like move on, which is kind of cool. Like, I definitely can be a noodler and you know, and belabor the point, you know, like the iterative workflow is cool unless you're just doing nothing but iterating forever. You never just call it. But being on stream makes me feel like, oh, they've been watching me model this for how long? Like, why don't I just move on? You know, isn't this good enough? Which might actually be good. But this transition between these two things is actually really bugging me. Which is when I may decide to do this. Let's get my chat back. Let's see how these things handle it. Okay, these are all like very hip, trendy, not actual industrial tables, but industrial style home furniture. which is cool. But not exactly what I want. So there's like, these are also all too rustic. These are all like clean. Sometimes this really works and you're like, oh, look at that. First image, exactly what I should do. Sometimes this doesn't work at all. Let's see, what else? Let's do a shop workbench. Yeah, this is closer. Like, spent so much time, like I talked about in the vertical, when I was doing the vertical slice, like figuring out how things are constructed, like running through that, like how do these two things fit together? What fastens them? Is it nails? Is it screws? Is it bolts? Is it, yeah, okay, this is cool. Let's see. Because that's something, like Overwatch does a lot of really simple transitions and intersects a lot of things, but something that they do pay attention a lot to, that from what I've seen, is those transitions. Like these areas, they'll put those bolts in, even if it's like this most simple texture or whatever, they'll model out a bolt, you know, instead of like having a normal map of the bolt, they'll put an actual geometry bolt in there and stuff like that. Just to really, so they have like there's like an intersection piece. So it would be something like this and this. And then you extrude that and give it some thick. Maybe I don't include that. That feels a little better than that, like, peg in the hole kind of, like, 19th century wood construction thing I had going on. And if I put, like, a bolt, a big, not huge, but a big bolt on there. Oh man, how many times have I modeled bolts? How many times have I modeled a bolt wrong? That's the question. Whoa, wrong bolt. Well, you know. Hello, Rainfleet. Thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. I'm actually kind of amazed and grateful and humbled at how many people seem to be interested in it. Like I was telling the chat before, like I make a lot of things, and a lot of times I expect that the only one who's going to care about it is me. So I'm very glad to hear that you think it's great. It's certainly been a heck of a lot of work. 1, 2, 3, okay, 6 sides. Sometimes I make them with 8 sides, and I think I do that a lot, and it's wrong. Doopa-doopa-doopa-doo. Welcome, Rainfleet. So there's some new people here. It's sort of like a lecture where over time it rearranges your thoughts. You know, I don't know. This project has been rearranging my thoughts. It's been, oh, I woke up my phone. Google thought I was talking to it. it's definitely been a learning experience. I'm glad that some of that process kind of stuff seems to be resonating with some people. Because man, what I've been learning is it's so important, like to be able to quantify all that stuff and set it all up and everything. Like a lot of people. So I'll say this. I'm not trying to brag or anything, but a lot of individuals see my project and they go, "Oh, I really like that project. It looks cool." A lot of like employer type people read my thread in that article, and they're like, "Wow, this process stuff is really cool." So like, it just goes to show that like that stuff is really important. Like it gets noticed when like it pays to think about that stuff. I guess is what I'm saying. Because there are people out there who seem to think it's important, and those people oftentimes are the ones who are hiring you and interviewing you. But that's cool. And it rearranged your thoughts. How did it? Is there anything in particular? Like, I feel like I just my brain just goes and I write tons of words, and it's not exactly focused. So what particularly latched onto your brain and rearranged it? How detailed do I want to get with this thing? Or is it good enough? I think it's pretty good. Let's just give that a cheeky bevel. Oh, totally. Their method, workflow, like... So I've been quoting in a few places recently the book Art and Fear. I don't know if any of y'all have read that. It kind of changed... So I came across it. It was recommended to me by a professor of mine when I was at school. And school for me was really tough. Insofar as I was... Kill all the back faces. That's right. So school for me was tough because I got into art. I feel like I got into art later in my life. Like, art was always fun, but I went way like tech. Like I was doing level design for games and like tinkering with making mods for Quake and Half-Life and stuff. And then I went and started getting into like 3D modeling. I did all of this before learning how to draw, and then kind of discovered like, oh wait, you need to learn how to like be an artist and see things as an artist first and all that kind of stuff. So in college, I was looking at all my fellow students, and they were all just like outputting work. Like they carried sketchbooks around and they acted like artists and all this stuff, and I don't know, they just felt like they had their crap together and I didn't. This isn't turning out the way I wanted it. And so I had a lot of concern of like, oh, why don't I feel like an artist? I want to work on my art, but I don't. Like, it's so hard, and it's all these negative things, and like I hate sketchbooking, and I hate all this stuff. And there was a lot of hand wringing on my part, and like concern about like I was somehow like broken because of it. And the book Art and Fear really kind of turned that mindset around, which is a toxic mindset to kind of worry about a lot of that stuff. But one thing that he talked about that that really plugged in to my rearranged my brain was he said the job of an artist isn't necessarily to make art. The job of an artist is to learn to work on your work, right? And that just like blew my mind. Like it totally shifted the the issue from like you need to find this fun and you need to be having a blast 24/7 and just like page after page of sketches and just I found my muse and all that crap. Actually, what the gig really is you just gotta work. Like you learn how to work and you learn how to learn, and then you just do it. You just churn on it and you produce a lot of crap. The thoroughness, I guess, and walking around to time the lines of sight rather than looking at things in terms of distance. Exposure to enemies. Yeah, so that's like the other side of that, of my college experience was like there's a lot of art based. Look, we're just looking at this model. How boring. A lot of my classmates were art first, and then they got into tech in school. So I was actually ahead of a lot of them. So who knows? There was probably a bunch of them who were like, I don't know tech. I can't do all this tech stuff, and wringing their hands over that. It's just artists are such delicate creatures, aren't we? But like digging into the tech side of that stuff, well, the more technical, I mean like game design. So in school, very quickly, I realized that I wanted to make games, and art was the way I was going to contribute to that process, as opposed to being like, I want to make art for a living. What's the best field to make enough money to justify me being an artist? I was more like, I'm going to make games. So digging into that design stuff was just a natural thing. Like I mentioned before, I needed solutions to problems. Like my whole project is made up of problems, and those problems need solutions. And as soon as I find all the solutions, then my project is done. And the more solutions I can find readily available, like off the shelf, the less I have to just grind my brain into dust, trying to figure it out. So when I first had that, when I was first blocking in, let's see if I can find some of that. Probably not. When I was first blocking in that, the terrace section, I just had this big, huge, wide open area, and it just didn't feel right. I knew it didn't feel right, and I knew that it was lazy, and I knew I wasn't there yet. Like I was several steps away from like figuring out. That's really old. From figuring out what it needed to be, what direction it needed to go in. And so I was like, well, I'm doing an emulation, so why don't I go look at all the solutions there? And yeah, discovering those timings. Like, I wonder how long it take. Like, how big is the biggest area in Overwatch? Like, what is that element of their DNA? And what can I learn from that? Ended up taking me to a really good place. Which is finding those timings, and then like finding that and then testing them in other levels. Like, oh, this one's only 10 seconds, and then testing that and like oh, Oasis is 10 seconds. Oh, King's Row, that's also 10 seconds. Like, it was like, aha, I found you out. Super fun. Just doing that with games in general, like being mindful of that design, maybe not as you play, because when you're playing you want to play for fun, but set aside time, like play your games for fun, but then go back into them and play them for learning, and like try to pick them apart like that. It's super fun. Yeah, it is very surprising. The article looks like an art write-up, but it's more of a game design write-up at first. It's like, oh wow, this person made a concept Overwatch that was sweet, but then you read it and realize, no, this is about game design mechanics. Cool. Wow. Barkova. Sorry. Gotta head out. Thanks for the stream. It's been super interesting following, so I can hopefully catch you more later. Thank you so much for watching. I seriously expected to have nobody. Whoops. I'm gonna have nobody if I keep doing that. I seriously expected nobody to come watch me, and I'm super happy. I think we topped at like 12, and that's awesome. Like that's 12 more than I expected. So thank you so much. Yes, please follow. I'm going to try to do this at least once a week, hopefully twice a week. Um, and then we'll go from there. And Pafvir, thank you so much. That is actually really cool to hear. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully I keep going. It looks like transliterated Russian, which I can read, but it doesn't mean anything to me. It's whatever. My online name is Mutated Jellyfish. Like, came up with that when I was like 12. Online names, they're whatever. Just laugh when streamers try to pronounce it. Yes, yes, art and fear. If you're an artist trying to make art, especially if you're a commercial artist, which brings on, I think, some other kind of special stresses with it. Very very good book, just for mental health of the artist. Um, it I don't know if it was just where I was at when I when it was given to me, but it definitely changed my outlook on how and why I make art for the better. It was a big deal for me. Okay, that's looking kind of like something, huh? Spend like forever on this. That's okay. I feel like I want some kind of detail here though. Like I want to come in here and I want to, let's see, I just want some detail in here. And I want to slide this down. And then thank you. Rick and Morty, they are by far the best clients I've ever had. Yeah, I lucked into that gig. I just knew a guy who knew a guy kind of thing, and it's great. If you if you can get a gig working for Rick and Morty, I highly recommend it. Man, it's so fun. It's a shame that it's a shame for me that the seasons are so few and far between, because I would do that work. Whoa, that's weird. I would do that work all year long. But thank you. Yeah, it's a load of fun, and I get to watch all kinds of episodes of the seasons when they're only like animatic, unfinished animation, and Justin Roiland doing temp voice work for all the characters and stuff, and Dan Harmon. It's awesome. As far as art related books, I read Flow, which is more of okay, yeah. Is that what's his name? Flo? That my mind goes blank when I'm on stream. Psychology of Optimal Experience, right. Okay, I've heard of this. And I know I just said that I can read Russian, but I'm not going to even try to pronounce that guy's name. Flo, psychological write-up about entering the zone and War of Art. War of Art. Okay, I'm going to make notes of these. Man, streaming's awesome. People come and talk to you and like give you cool recommendations and teach you stuff. Flow and War of Art. Wait, so can you confirm if they animate in 3D and then convert it into a 2D look? Some of those animations look like IK rigs. You're talking about the characters and stuff? I don't know too much about characters because I mostly have done vehicle work for them. But I'm pretty sure it's all just animated, 2D animated. They don't. So I'm a 3D artist on Rick and Morty, and they like none of my stuff is ever on screen. Like they use my 3D models as basically digital marionettes. They like drive them around in Maya and then trace over them just so they can get the perspective changes like correct. But the very first thing I ever did for them was testing out some cell shaded effects like I had they gave me the flying saucer model that they had made, and I was trying to like shade it, cell shaded. Um, yeah, so if you're talking about that perspective, so like if anybody's holding a gun, or if there's like a car going by or a spaceship or anything, that's all just rotoscope based, digital rotoscope. We people like me make the models, so you can see like on my art station, like I have all of the lines drawn on the models to match the model sheet, just so they can get all the internal lines correct. Um, and then they drive them around like a really simple scene in Maya, and then just draw over those frames by hand. Because their style is really kind of like rough and dirty and sloppy. Sloppy is the better word. Um, like the lines aren't really, they're not like Family Guy or Futurama. Like Futurama used a lot of actual 3D models. It was really nice and clean, but they like the eyeballs are little scribbles and stuff. So they wanted to keep that. So really early on, I did some tests, some really quick tests um, of that kind of stuff. Let's see if I can. Crap, I don't remember where I put it. Yeah, here it is. So you can see that's like the first thing I ever did for them with the flying saucer. Um, but that was too clean. They were like, "Oh, that's too clean." Yeah, I should probably use incognito tabs. There's nothing too. I'm a simple guy. There's nothing too scary on my browser. Yeah, but they do just like this. Like they just load those models in and then trace over them, basically, just like you see here. Which is kind of like, none of my stuff gets all the way to the final screen, but that's just not what they need. They need those marionettes. Which, if you look back, there's a guy who's staff on Rick and Morty who I work with on the 3D models, and he actually went out once and found some like really old production photos of 101 Dalmatians, the Disney movie. Excuse me, and he found that they built paper models with the lines drawn on them of like Cruella de Vil's car. So if you watch like the chase scene from that movie, the truck and the car, like the perspective is really really good. Especially they didn't have computers back then. It's because they built the car out of paper and then inked the lines on them and then like filmed it with film cameras and stuff, and then rotoscoped over the top. So like the exact same cheat, right? That we use. Yeah, it was cool to see those photos. I don't know where he found them, but right, this feels a little better. It's just taking me forever to do it. I promise I won't complain about how long it takes me to model stuff. See that feels good. I do want it a little thicker. Oh, come on. Make me go into ortho. Should save. Yeah. Have you seen there's a documentary called. It's about Vermeer. Somebody's Vermeer. Crap. Tim's Vermeer. There it is. Wow, I just locked onto that. This is pretty cool. If you're interested in those kinds of stories of like art tricks. So this guy Tim what's his name? Tim Jennison. He actually founded New Tech, which makes Lightwave 3D and a bunch of other things. So he's just like a bajillionaire. He's tons of money, and he's best friends with he's good friends with Penn and Teller, Penn Jillette. So they did Penn and Teller did this documentary of him trying to like figure out how Vermeer painted his paintings, and he found like these like crazy, this weird like mirror trick that allowed him to paint a Vermeer and make it look like a Vermeer. Yeah. So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, where old artists using tricks, you know, like all artists cheat and use tricks, and it's just, nobody cares how it was done as long as it's beautiful when it's done, you know. It's pretty interesting. Alright. Is that too much? That's probably too much. Let's see what that looks like. Definitely need these back to what they were. Wow, I'm amazed that like it's pretty much been like 10 people this whole time. I was seriously thinking nobody would come watch. Where did you guys see that I was streaming, by the way? 'Cause I posted around, but I actually have no idea. Like, there's no way for me to really tell who came from where. Oh, sweet. Okay, so definitely blog on ArtStation. Facebook, cool. Yeah, it's really cool. ArtStation has that stream integration thing. Okay. Awesome. That's good info. So we have, on ArtStation right now, we have the second highest viewers, and the the one with the highest viewers has 104. Oh well. Someday, right? Oh yeah, Polycount did tweet. Yeah, I put it on Twitter. It's so random what Polycount retweets and what it doesn't. But I did see that. That's cool. Cool. Good info. Well, I am gonna have to wrap up pretty soon, so I won't get to texturing this. Nice. Yeah. All right. Well, you can follow me on Twitch now, and Twitch will send you like all kinds of messages and annoying alerts and stuff. But I appreciate it. I am, yeah, I'm super stoked that so many people are here. It's very cool. Very, very cool. Alright, let's just, let's throw this in and see what it looks like. Well, first of all, let's do some of these things. Make sure we delete inside faces. And just give this a little bevel. then I will throw this in the engine just so we can see what it looks like, and I think I'm probably done for tonight. It is midnight for me, and I have kids who get up early. So let's take a look. I just kind of eyeballed the center point on that, so I'm not surprised that's off. Okay, and save. We'll just do an auto thing on here and just see what we get. Oh yeah, we want to combine those, don't we? Okay, once again, set the pivot to the floor, move it to the origin, and export. Unreal scrambles our materials. It's nice like that. I wish you could drag things around a bit more in more places. So that is actually the screen. And that, yeah, that's the plastic. And that guy we want, so I have some just generic metals that are called the wrong things. It's not what I wanted. Yeah, no, it's okay. I mean, it needs so, yeah, it needs some chunking up, right? A little bit chunkier. I think I went too chunky in here and not chunky enough on that one. And obviously some texture work would be good. Let's see if this does anything different. Yeah, keep it with that. Let's look at it on foot. Grass, man. It's freaking plants. It's rough. It's one of my weak points. Okay, yeah, you know. May want to move it back a little bit. I thought I deleted those, but maybe I just turned them off. I did. Let's get rid of those. Yeah, definitely darker, definitely different color. I just have that material left over from something. And it's just a generic kind of metallic. So yeah, I definitely don't like the color, and it's too bright. It's too, stands out too much on that dark floor, right? I think it's, yeah, just in general, a little too chunky on the table. Table could be thinner, bevel could be thinner, like the bezel rather. Just kind of bring it in again. I know, like I went way thick early on and had to bring it in. I think it needs to be brought in a little bit more, and then maybe it'll match the legs a bit better. If we look at these, like, yeah, so the bevels on here are way thicker on the legs. But generally I like the shapes pretty good. Yeah, see, like these are nice and round, and then these are a little more, not that I have to make them exactly like theirs, but you know. I can just barely jump. Oh, if I stand on the mat, no? Not gonna let me jump up there again, huh? Alright. That's cool though. Oh, there we go. So yeah, maybe, you know, I'll try to tune that stuff, and then next time we can move on to something else, maybe a computer or something cooler. So there's definitely going to be a lot of this kind of stuff, and a lot of little props. So things I like to call quick props, where you model them out and you slap a color on them and you get them in there. The kind of stuff that would go flying as soon as somebody shot a rocket at it. So hopefully in some future streams we'll do that kind of stuff as well, and just kind of dress out this area here, and run some cables across the floor, and try to I'll have to brainstorm how to bring the character into it. So like I said, it's supposed to be a little work area for Torbjorn. So how do we communicate that it's Torbjorn specifically who works here, short of putting a note that says Torbjorn's workspace, telling that story in the way things are. So maybe some stepping stools or or something like that. I'll have to do some brainstorming and then run it by the stream later. But for now, I'm gonna call it. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. A lot of fun. Definitely out of my comfort zone. Definitely kind of weird to try to model while people are watching you. But I'm pretty open book about what is weird to me, and what my shortcomings are. So I'll keep communicating, and thank you guys so much. Honestly, again, I expected maybe one of my friends to come in for 10 minutes and be like, weird, you're streaming. But yeah, a solid 10 people coming in and out. That was awesome. So cool. Thank you so much. This has been really fun. So I'm thinking I'll do it again tomorrow night. Hopefully I'll get on a regular schedule, and then I can start just doing it on a weekly basis. But for now, I'm feeling it out. So Wednesday night, Wednesday and Thursday night, let's say, for now. So thank you so much, and I will see all you guys hopefully tomorrow. If not tomorrow, then next time when you see all those emails and notifications come through. I'll continue to blast it out. So thank you very much, and I'll catch you guys later.